Stanley Falco defined the discipline of cellular microbiology. He discovered both how pathogens cause disease and the molecular nature of antibiotic resistance. Without a doubt, he is the microbiologist of his century.
You come here. Yeah. These are my old girl dog. Huh?
I think there have been a series of major microbiologists in history. Pasteur is one, Koch was another, and Falco was a third. His contributions have been monumental.
I think Stan is actually aptly considered to be the microbe hunter of the 20th and 21st century. And in many ways, he is the Louis Pasteur of the last 50 years.
It's sort of like what he is he's the person who opens the gates and gives the theoretical and technological okay for everybody to sort of go where they may have been kind of afraid to go before.
Falco's passion for the world too small to be seen began with the serendipitous acquisition of a Gilbert Hall of Science microscope.
I really had fantasized that I was going to be kind of like Pasteur and Koch. I mean, it's still in my mind as if it was yesterday. I remember seeing that thing, and it was so, you could see all, it seemed to me you could see the details.
It just captured his imagination for the rest of his life. From the time he was 11 on, he's always wanted to be a bacteriologist. He fell in love.
Stanley Falco's extraordinary conceptual powers revealed the underlying principles of microbiology, defining new fields of exploration.
There was now possible to do DNA hybridization, where you could actually take DNA from two different sources, mix them together, and measure how related the two DNAs were. And that, again, was when to me, it seemed like a miracle. Most people looked at it as being how you taxonomically classify bacteria, and we were looking at it was more going to tell us about the genetic phylogeny of the organisms rather than just how you classify the thing.
Falco not only established the existence of plasmids, he also developed the method necessary to separate them from chromosomes. These extraordinary breakthroughs redefined the field of molecular biology.
I mean, I felt great pleasure when I looked up in the Model E and saw a little band of DNA that said that F was really extra chromosomal. That was an important day for me. And I ran up and down the corridors of Brandeis showing it to everybody who I could find, saying, "Do you see something there?" And with a little more manipulation, it became very clear. We had seen the actual F factor. And Julia said to me, to this deep voice, "Stanley," he said, "today you have discovered the keys to the kingdom."
Falco's work on R factor helped lay the groundwork for one of the first recombinant DNA experiments.
So what we were showing is that in one quick genetic event, an organism could go from being uniformly susceptible to antimicrobial agents to being multiply resistant to a number of antibiotic agents, including those that were the drugs of choice.
Until Falco's revolutionary insight, scientists had focused solely on the disease-causing bacteria. With his appreciation that disease pathogens must be studied with the host cells, a new field of cellular microbiology emerges.
I've suddenly realized if we're going to be looking at bacteria and entering cells, we can't ignore that host cell anymore. We have to be able to study it and understand what's going on. And it was at that point where I recognized you can't just look at one and not the other, because one is really dependent on the other. They're codependent.
Falco's generosity of spirit and intellectual guidance shaped many students to be scientists for the new frontiers he'd identified and developed.
His reaction whenever he talks about students, it's very emotional.
You're my girl.
That's the most important thing to him. And, you know, for a great part of his life, his students really meant everything, I think, to him.
If you look around the United States and around the world at those scientists who are really making a difference in microbiology and cell biology, many of them came through Stanley's lab and were his students.
Microbiology hasn't seen anybody like him since Koch or Pasteur, or people at that level. We've had the opportunity to experience him in our lifetime, and that's something that I think a lot of us appreciate and realize how unique that is.
I can't think of a better place to think and to enjoy life than here.
Through his vision and dedication to science, Stanley Falco changed the world, with his students now continuing his legacy. But perhaps most important of all, Stanley Falco is a scientist and a man who is both greatly respected and loved by all who know him.